Let's talk about the Merc with the Mouth crossing off the first name from his bucket list of revenge, Steve Rogers. See, once upon a time, Wade had the whole world in front of him. He was an Avenger, he was part of Steve Rogers' Unity Squad, and he was beloved by the people and seen as a hero. But once an interaction with the sentient cosmic cube returned Steve to his youth, Wade found himself on the wrong side of history. Devoid of his own moral compass and idealizing Steve Rogers his entire life, he blindly followed him into joining the Hydra Avengers. After the Secret Empire came crumbling down and the world was returned back to normal, people didn't forget exactly whose side Deadpool was on. And now he's paying Hydra Cap a little visit in his prison cell. See, because of Steve, Deadpool had killed Phil Coulson, and that was way before he ever heard the words "Hell Hydra" come out of his mouth. He's threatening Steve, trying to intimidate him, telling him that whenever he stands trial, he's going to make sure everyone knows that that was an order from the executive branch of the federal government. Cap tells him that he's simply going to plead the fifth. Why would he ever incriminate himself? And while Wade can't believe the shit that's coming out of his mouth, he tells Cap that he's already going to trial for attacking a whole country. Cap says he was granted those emergency powers by the federal government, and if anybody is to blame for all of this, it would be Maria Hill for tampering with the Cosmic Cube in the first place. Steve tells him that either this entire world around me is a lie, or I am. If you're going to destroy somebody, I would start and end with her. Cap also knows that if Wade was going to kill him, he would have done it already, so he wants to know why the hell he's here. And as he begins to pour acid down the toilet bowl, Wade says that originally he was going to pour this all over Steve's face. Now he's going to come up with a different plan because he tells Steve, "You ruined my life, so I'm going to dedicate mine to ruining yours." Thanks to that slow-aging super soldier serum, you're going to sit in this cell and rot for probably 1,000 years, and in that time, I'm going to turn this country into the exact opposite of the Hydra ideal. Tells Cap in 1,000 years when he gets out of here, he's going to see a country full of gay mutant lizard sparkle people. They'll all ride around on unicorns and blow confetti out of their ass. Between now and then, he's going to pay Steve all kinds of visits, and each time he does, he's going to take something from him. And this time, he's taking his sleep. Tells him that he's going to let him live because deep down he knows that the real Steve Rogers would feel some sort of relief if this guy was to die. And he is the only person that Wade hates more than him in this world. Oh yeah, and he's taking one more thing as he tells Hydra Cap to have fun shitting in the corner. Deadpool goes to make his getaway in a hot air balloon and thinking to himself how this interaction really helped him clear his mind. Everything's going to be okay. He's going to make it from here on out as he's going to make his clean getaway from the prison. It attracts a little unwanted attention, and his getaway turns into anything but clean. We see his hot air balloon run into the power lines and explode. News of Wade's break into the prison starts breaking all over the place. Of course, people just assumed he was trying to break Hydra Steve out of jail, and with all of this commotion that he has caused, he's got some new, unwanted attention. We see a couple of NYPD officers hanging out when all of a sudden, something strange catches their attention. As the Merc with the Mouth is riding on top of a stolen helicarrier and is screaming at New York to come and get him. Now the officers realize that Wade clearly wants some attention and are hoping that if they just ignore him, he's going to go away. But luckily enough for them, somebody much more capable of the job comes by to collect Deadpool. After getting decked and almost rolling off of the top of the helicarrier, Wade says, "Hello, sugar." But Rogue tells him she's just not in the mood. Of course, Wade classically is trying to defuse the situation with a little bit of humor. He tells Rogue that if she wants to pick up where they left off, he likes a little bit of warm-up first before they get into the rough stuff. But she tells him seriously that she's here to help. She wants him to talk to the prosecutors. She wants him to testify against Hydra, and she will testify for Wade. But at the end of the day, she is here to take him in, and he tells her that if she doesn't mean that as a euphemism, he will be leaving. As the regenerating degenerate lets go and starts to freefall, Rogue thinks to herself that she ought to let it happen. She swoops in to save Deadpool at the last second. She tells him that he could have hit somebody, and he tells her that he knew he would always be safe in her arms, but that unfortunately for him was strike two, as she throws him straight into the back of a seafood truck. Now Wade is being immature and tells her that he's not coming out. So naturally she's just going to pick the entire truck up with Deadpool in it, but he jumps out at the last second and lets her know that honestly his feelings are really hurt. He expected the whole world to come gunning for him, but not Rogue. She's just like everybody else, everybody who has always tried to control him. He tells her it started back with Weapon X, then it was Butler, then it was Logan, and then it was Captain Freakin' America, and now it's you. As he starts beating her and letting out his frustration, he says that he never cared about her and he never would have dated somebody who dates Gambit. Rogue tells him that she didn't need to make out with him to know that that's a lie. He is the man that Steve Rogers promised that he was. Not Hydra Steve, but the real Steve, when he asked Rogue to lead the Unity Squad. Deadpool is the guy that will go to hell and back for his friends, and she knows why he's pushing them all away now. And her little speech was finally enough to shut the merc with the mouth up. He tells her that she was right, and hell, he probably would date Gambit, but he wouldn't want to make it weird between the two of them. But Rogue corrects him and says that there is no me and you, because you killed it deader than Coulson. She hits Deadpool, sending him flying, letting out some of her frustration for the passing of Phil. Now Wade tells her that they could have been great together, and she says it would have been nothing but two unkillable people hurting each other nonstop. And Deadpool says, speaking of invulnerability, he then hits her in the face with thermite, which burns brighter than the surface of the sun. He tells her the blindness will be temporary, and he genuinely is sorry, and he knows he blew it, and things are going to change for him here soon. He can't make anything right, but he wants to know that Rogue will keep the promise she made to protect his daughter. As Wade is leaving, she says of course she will. Now Rogue is trying to tell him that he can't possibly run from this, but he says then you don't know me very well. As he turns around to take one last look at her, he says goodbye, Anna Marie. Rogue tells Wade goodbye, and as she goes to clean herself up, a voice asks if she's alright. And she turns around and tells him that he's too late, that he just missed Deadpool, but he says that's fine. Captain America tells her that he's going to take over from here on out, that Deadpool is his mess, and he'll clean it up. Madcap specifically was possibly Deadpool's greatest arch nemesis at the time. He especially crossed the line when in a fight he kills Deadpool, but after he wakes up in a morgue, he goes to visit his daughter and her surrogate family and finds out that he's infected them all with an uncurable virus. In order to save his family, Deadpool ends up making a deal with the evil version of Cable known as Strife. Deadpool had to promise Strife that he would carry out a list of hits. Absolutely no questions asked. We see Madcap celebrating because he's finally going to go out of his way to put the merc with a mouth out of his misery. He's trying to figure out a way to permanently kill Deadpool. Much more than that, he really wants to ruin the guy's life. The only problem is, it looks like that already got done. Now, after visiting the Preston household and seeing that it's already been burnt down, Madcap does a little digging and found out about the Secret Empire. After finding out what he did, how everyone hates him now because he joined Hydra during the Secret Empire, he decides that that sucks and he's just gonna move on. He wanted to be the one to destroy Deadpool's life, not smash the rubble that it is into smaller pieces. Little did he know, Wade was still looking for a fight. Madcap warns the horse pulling the buggy to not get too close to Deadpool, that everyone around him dies. And as Wade jumps off the carriage, furiously filling Madcap full of bullets, he tells him that that's your fault. Deadpool warns Madcap as they begin to battle that he's prepared for him this time. See, after the Secret Empire, Deadpool left the planet. He scoured all of space looking for a weapon that would kill Madcap. What he found was something even better, as we see him turning on this transmitter. Madcap just keeps taunting Deadpool, bringing up his failed relationship with Rogue, and Wade tells him to keep her name out of your fucking mouth. While the regenerating degenerate wants to know if Madcap has any last words, he tells him, yeah, you blame everyone else for your problems, Deadpool, but in fact, you're the reason for your problems. As he continues to ramble on, Deadpool cuts him off and tells him that his big surprise is here. Because while he can never find a way to actually kill Madcap, the Collector will come and keep him in his zoo forever. They quickly put Madcap to the test, cutting his head off, lighting him on fire, and seeing if he was everything that Deadpool claimed him to be. After being satisfied with the results, the Collector traps him and then goes to take off as Deadpool laughs in Madcap's face. He tells him he's going to spend an eternity imprisoned in space by a cosmic nutjob. But while Deadpool is gloating, Madcap just thanks him. Said he was bored of all of this, that Wade's life isn't worth ruining, he's going to do it all himself, and he was just going to kill Deadpool and move on anyway. He wanted to make everyone fear Wade, he wanted to kill his family, he wanted to take everything from Deadpool, but he's already done all that himself. He tells the merc with a mouth that he actually kinda feels bad for him, and that he was a fool to think that anybody could ever ruin Deadpool's life worse than he can. With that issue resolved and Madcap permanently locked away, Deadpool goes from one hell into another. As Strife calls Deadpool, collecting on one of his favors, and tells him that he has to carry out a hit, tells Deadpool that he doesn't want to see a single ounce of bullshit, or his daughter is going to die. And that's when Strife reveals that Deadpool's target is just a child, a young mutant known as Kid Apocalypse. See the young Kid Apocalypse sprinting desperately down the street, running for his life. He tells the people he's ran into that Deadpool is coming to kill him, but Wade shows up and knocks them out, and tells Evan that he shouldn't have ran away. As he raises his weapon towards him, he tells the young mutant that he hit him with a drug that suppresses his powers, and not to struggle, and it'll all be over quickly. But Evan just has to know, is this him? Did he do something wrong? Is this something he's gonna do in the future? And Wade tells him simply that, no, Evan, this is all me. And Strife looks on at his map of mutants, grinning as another one's name comes off the board. He teleports Deadpool in as he tells him it's done, you freak, and he smiles and taunts Deadpool, telling him that shooting the boy must have been hard for you. But Wade tells Strife just to give him the last name and pray to God that he never sees him again. But as he teleports Deadpool away, he tells him it's the easiest one on the list. She's just a civilian named Marietta Nelson. She lives on Bleecker Street, and as long as she's dead by dawn, the two of us are even. Wade then goes and wakes the completely demutinized Evan up in the alley, begins apologizing and tells him that he owes him an explanation. He tells him the drug he used is only temporary, that eventually he will get his mutant powers back. But Evan tells Deadpool that he thought he was going to kill him, and Wade says, come on man, if you really thought that, you would have called in the X-Men. And as it would turn out, he already did. Crimson Comedian doesn't have time to make jokes or time to make light of this situation. He tells Kitty Pryde to get the hell out of his way. He has places to be as she faces a ball bat through his chest. And faces the regenerating degenerate into the glass in the storefront window and says she doesn't understand what the hell Rogue ever saw in him. As Wade is sitting there bleeding, Evan just wants to know why. He says it matters to him. He has to know why Deadpool would do this. He tries to explain that it was all about his little girl, that they were threatening to kill Ellie. That still might happen. She still might not be safe if they ever find out that he cheated and didn't kill the young mutant. He's doing it for the girl, he's just doing it for his daughter, and he explains to the X-Men that she's going to be a mutant one day if she can survive being his kid. Kid Apocalypse tells him if he was in trouble, he should have just asked for help from his friends, but Deadpool says that's the point. He can't afford to have any. Kitty tells him he's a wanted murderer. There's no way they're just going to let him walk away from this, but he says that's exactly what he's going to do as he tosses a live grenade at them, forcing Kitty to stop and phase everyone so that they don't get hurt. And by the time the explosion goes off and the dust settles, Deadpool is already gone and making his way to his next target. One more black mark on his ledger and Deadpool will finally be free of Strife, and this woman who maybe never even heard a fly will be dead. We see her panicking, waking up in her bed, asking who's there. As Deadpool tells her, my name is Wade Wilson, and I owe you an apology. He explains and says I have a daughter, and if I don't kill you, my enemy is going to kill her. He tells her, you know, you're like my daughter. You didn't deserve to come into my orbit either. Hell, nobody deserves me. I just kind of happen to people. She begins to bawl her eyes out crying. She wants to know if there's something that either of them could do. But there isn't, and even though it doesn't matter, Deadpool genuinely wants her to know that he's so sorry. He tells her it's not about you, it's about that poor little girl, and the woman at least wants to know her name, and he says it's Ellie. The woman tries to reason it out and tell herself that maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe this isn't the worst end. A middle-aged woman dies so a little girl can live. Tears streaming down her face, she asks will it hurt. As Deadpool grabs her hand, he tells her no. I already did it. Deadpool hangs his head and takes a second to mourn for what he's just done. As he walks outside, he hears the sound of heavy boots thudding on the rooftop above him. But Deadpool thinks that he's too late. He's too late for me, he's too late for that poor woman, and he was too late for Phil Coulson. Captain America shows up and tells Deadpool that he's taking him in. Before Wade ever learned that Steve was an evil double agent for Hydra, he had followed his orders and killed Phil Coulson. This leads to Agent Preston, a sentient life model decoy for S.H.I.E.L.D., and the foster mother to Wade's daughter, finding out about the death of her best friend. And needless to say, she's extremely pissed. Hell-bent on revenge, Deadpool had no choice but to shut her down for good. Regardless of how much of a victim of circumstance Wade was or how much it was really his fault, he's wanted for murder, and the real, true Steve Rogers is here to bring him in. They begin fighting. Cap sympathizes with Wade and tells him that he honestly has every right to be upset. Steve genuinely wants to know, does murdering Phil Coulson sound like something I would ever ask you to do? Merc with the mouth tells him yes, because I heard you say it with your voice. He tells Rogers to get off his high horse, that he's no better than anybody else in Wade's life who has ever tried to control him. He's just muscle, and when the chips are down, he's completely disposable. As he kicks him in the chest, the Star-Spangled Man tries to give Deadpool a counter-argument. He tells him that he's happier and better when he's a soldier. He belongs in a regimented system. It gives him some order in his chaotic world. Deadpool doesn't want to hear it. He says, you know, if Steve Rogers had asked Black Widow to kill Phil Coulson, she wouldn't be getting this kind of treatment now, would she? Oh, she would get a pass, but not me. Wade tells him it's bullshit, and he doesn't want to hear it because at the end of the day, no one cared about him. Steve didn't care about him until he lost his super soldier serum, until he became an old man. And Logan was dead, and they just needed a mindless, obedient, regenerating torpedo that they could fire into danger. Cap tells him he genuinely hates Deadpool was tricked into this, and despite everything he's done since, Cap is going to testify for leniency against him. As the soldier of misfortune breaks free from Cap's restrainment, he puts him to the test, telling him that maybe the evil Steve Rogers is the one who represents what America is now. After a pissed off Cap slams him into the ground, Wade says that he's not going to stop fighting, that he's just going to keep coming. The way to get him to quit would be to take his sword and pin him to the ground. And the Merc with the Mouth keeps taunting him, telling him to go ahead and do it, telling him that he's not going to let up. And driving the sword through his back, Captain America raises up and says, hi kids, as Wade got him to play right into his hands. Deadpool gets up and leads Captain America on a chase and tells him that you're no better than me, you're just wrapped in their flak. He hops down into a manhole. Wade puts another black eye on Captain America's already ruined name. But the Merc with the Mouth isn't done yet. He's not stopping. He has one more thing he wants to show Steve. He leads him down into his most recent hideout. He tells Rogers to open the box. And he shows him the destroyed remains of Agent Preston, of the woman who was raising his daughter, and he tells him, you were Captain America, and you will fix her. And he's not giving him a choice. Deadpool has already rigged this place with explosives, and he's ready to bring an entire city block down around them. And Cap calls his bluff. Wade tells him, you don't realize how little fucks I have left to give. He blows one column. Steve realizes that Deadpool is out of his mind, and he says that a boy, Captain Obvious. His detonator is now a dead man's switch. If his thumb comes off that trigger, he's blowing the entire block. He tells Steve, you want me off the board? Well, good. So do I. His demand is a reasonable one. He tells Cap to fix Preston, that she is the only one I will surrender to. Till then, it's me against the world, and the world is going to take it up the tailpipe.